Thank you very much. Thank you very much. There will now be an opportunity for silent prayer or meditation. Please be seated. Order, honorable members. In accordance with Council Rule 2471, there will be no notices of motion or motions without notice. But I'm told that the political parties have agreed to have statements being made after questions have been completed, directed to the Deputy President. And the statements are going to be on the Springboks winning the 2019 Rugby World Cup. Before we proceed to questions, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome the Deputy President. And after the question sessions to the Deputy President, as has been indicated, we'll have statements. But it's also quite important, honorable members, that when we direct questions to the Deputy President, we should note the following. The time for reply by the Deputy President to a question is 5 minutes. Only 4 supplementary questions allowed per question. A member who has asked the initial question would be the first to be afforded an opportunity to ask a supplementary question. The time for asking supplementary question is 2 minutes, and the time for reply to a supplementary question is 4 minutes. The supplementary question, whatever supplementary question is asked, must emanate from the initial question. So, honorable members, the first question is question number 7, asked by Honorable A. Big Poia on the critical asset maintenance strategies, and is directed to the Deputy President. Yeah, what's the point of order?
I request Deputy President the question.
No, we'll do it just now. So the first question is as indicated, is from Honorable Goia, a director of Deputy President on critical asset maintenance strategies. We'll now ask the Deputy President to proceed to the podium.
Chair, on a point of order, please. Chairperson, I don't have a problem with the Deputy President or any other President or Minister standing at the podium. On a point of order, I just want you then, or any person sitting in the chair, to please look through the minister or the deputy president or around him to just recognize this part of the house for questions as well. Thank you.
We always try, honorable members, to do this process in an orderly manner and in a way that ensures that everyone gets an opportunity to ask a question. But there's a maximum of 4 supplementary questions. And please raise your hands as early as possible so that you are noted. But you can't raise your hand now before there's a response. Yeah, but as soon as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Before answering the question, let me take this opportunity briefly to join the President and the country in congratulating the Springbok. We want to say to the Springbok, thank you for bringing the cup at home. Thank you for unifying us. Thank you for lifting our spirits and showing all of us with this sense of positivity that we so desire as we tackle all our challenges. Thank you for reminding us that we're still a rainbow nation. Chair, we indeed acknowledge that our country is currently experiencing enormous energy challenges that have a potential to hinder prospects for new investment and economic growth. However, government has put in place key performance indicators and targets that are outlined in the shareholder compact to ensure that Eskom executes maintenance at its generation, transmission, and distribution assets. The shareholder compact is signed by the Eskom board and the Minister of Public Enterprise and is revised on an annual basis. The National Development Plan has identified the need for South Africa to invest in a strong network of economic infrastructure designed to support the country's medium and long-term economic and social objectives. Energy infrastructure is therefore a critical component that underpins our economic activity and growth in our development trajectory. It is, however, Chair, concerning that Eskom's fleet performance has since deteriorated due to lack of maintenance, refurbishment over the years, greatly compromising the security of electricity supply. This situation is also worsened, among other things, by coal shortages and the supply of substandard coal. With regards to grid reliability, Eskom has a responsibility to conduct maintenance of its grid assets according to published standards that are benchmarked with international best practices. In the course of time, there have been weaknesses in terms of adherence to published standards. However, as government, we are working very hard to ensure that Eskom and the power utility reverts back to the compliance with these published standards. With an aging power station fleet, we need for planned midlife refurbishment to increase and meet the life expectations of these power plants. Critical areas that need work have been identified and are being funded and resourced to renew the power plants to a more reliable state. Unfortunately, all these shortfalls have resulted in rotational load shedding being implemented this year early and during the past 3 weeks of October. With regards to the current generation capacity of the coal power stations, we advise that as we stand, we are standing at the maximum available power of 36,221 megawatts. Under the leadership of the Minister of Public Enterprise, work is currently underway to ensure that interruptions in the performance of coal power stations is minimized to avoid disruptions and load shedding. Accelerated economic growth, rising population, and the expansion of human settlement and industrial development zones must be matched by targeted measures on the side of government to cater for energy security needs. Government remains committed to ensuring that Eskom is supported to address persistent sustainability challenges, including unsustainable levels of debt, underinvestment, and inadequate maintenance of plants, resulting in energy supply interruptions. To this end, Eskom has developed a detailed turnaround plan to address its structural, operational, and financial challenges. This entails a clear focus on improving efficiencies, reducing costs, optimizing plant performance, and enhancing government systems. In spite of these difficulties ahead, we believe that policy reforms announced by the President in respect of positioning Eskom will put Eskom on a sustainable recovery path. Government continues to provide the necessary support to Eskom to ensure that prospects of investment, economic growth, and job creations are not negatively impacted. Last week, the Minister of Public Enterprise released a new roadmap on Eskom outlining government's plans for the future of Eskom. The roadmap for Eskom proposes a new business model which will provide reliable, affordable, economically competitive, and environmentally sustainable electricity that will drive inclusive economic growth. We therefore urge organized labor, business, energy experts, and civil society at large to constructively engage the Minister on this proposed roadmap to explore lasting solutions. Alongside efforts to address Eskom's challenges, Cabinet has since approved the Integrated Resource Plan, which seeks to diversify our energy mix through the introduction of alternative sources of energy. While coal continues to play a significant role in electricity generation, new investment will need to be channeled to more efficient coal technologies, including exploration of other sources of energy like nuclear, gas, wind, hydro, and energy storage. In the medium to long term, we should be able to see a steady improvement in the country's ability to supply reliable energy that will support economic growth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. The first supplementary question goes to Toya.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Thanks to you, Honorable Deputy President, for a comprehensive response to the question. However, one other thing that I need to check, in fact, it's common cause that most of the challenges of Eskom that result in government taking decisions from time to time to bail Eskom out are as a result of monies that are owed to Eskom by the municipalities for the supply of electricity. And this municipality owe Eskom as a result of non-payments. Government departments do not pay their bills on time. Big businesses also owe municipalities huge sums of money, making it difficult for them to pay. But lastly, also the challenges that our own people have, the challenges of the culture of non-payment. That was, of course, as a result of the boycotts during the apartheid regime. So people have not yet gone to that culture. So is there a plan for government to ensure that we encourage those that owe to pay, so that we reduce the monies that are spent on funding and recapitalizing Eskom? And lastly, the issue of cable theft and illegal connections. How do we deal with those challenges? Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. On the side of government, I think we've encouraged all government departments, all institutions of government to pay for services consumed, especially to Eskom. There was a concerted effort on the side of Cabinet to ensure that each and every department that is owing Eskom is paying. The challenge remains with municipality, which is a task that is before the Minister of Culture, together with municipalities. Of course, in the main, municipalities have got a challenge in terms of their metering. They are not billing citizens correctly. There's always a dispute on the amount that people are owing. But you are spot on to say this culture of our people of non-payment, this culture must be dealt with. We've, on a number of occasions, in different platforms, conveyed this message that the time for resistance is over. We had to resist, we had to fight apartheid, but now it's time to turn on reconstruction. It's important for all of us to pay for services that we consume. Illegal connections, it's a responsibility of municipalities to ensure that people don't tamper with their grid, don't tamper with their distribution lines. In such a case, municipality must be able to detect early where there's tampering, where there's illegal connection. It's quite clear that municipalities don't have the necessary capacity to detect illegal connections on time and deal with those. Now, the district model, in terms of service delivery, that it's led by the President, of which I'm chairing the IMC. In the main, we seek to support municipalities to be able to collect money, to be able to put down systems of collections, billing systems, meters, and we call upon our people and our law enforcement agencies to deal with those who are stealing the cables, to deal with those who are illegally connecting into the grid. Partly, the problems that Eskom is facing today, some of the problems are from ourselves as citizens. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next question is from Honorable Mkamakaos.
Thank you, Chairperson. Deputy President, the biggest problem with Eskom is coal contracts which are expensive, which were signed by the apartheid government. NERSA says Eskom must pay 300 rand per ton, but Eskom, through its corrupt leadership, they go and pay 600 rand per ton, which is too expensive and costly. Do you agree with the determination of NERSA that Eskom should go to its original determination of 300 rand per ton? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that question. Well, this is an agreement that exists between Eskom and the suppliers of coal. Whatever it has happened along the way, for them to agree on higher rates, which are not sustainable. Those rates are not sustainable. We took a meeting, the Minister of Public Enterprise, the Minister of Energy, and we decided that this contract must be renegotiated. Eskom can't afford to go on and pay this kind of rates. A meeting took place with all the coal suppliers, together with the two ministers. Now, the intention of that meeting was to renegotiate those contracts and also to put on the table the question of the quality of the coal that is being supplied. Now, on the side of the quality of the coal, we've got inspectors now that are inspecting in all our power stations, inspecting the coal that goes into our power stations. I'm sure the negotiations are still underway, and there's positive signs that they are going to be lowered. Companies are prepared to lower down this cost of coal, but obviously they are raising a lot of issues that involves labor, to say if they reduce this cost, they'll have to lay off workers, which as government we're saying no. We are looking at an amicable way that will be to the best advantage of Eskom and to the best advantage of the coal suppliers. So that matter has been attended to. I don't think that is the only matter that has affected Eskom. Yes, coal supply is one, the exorbitant cost of coal, but secondly, leadership in Eskom. We think we need to beef up the management of Eskom so that we get the required skills that can run this power utility. That has been also a major concern. We're also not very happy in terms of the rising debt, how Eskom is managing its debt. It's not only the municipalities alone that have defaulted, but it's also worrying that Eskom over years, over the past 10 years, have failed to manage its debt, of which now the Minister of Finance is working closely with Eskom to ensure that the money that we give Eskom is correctly utilized. Thank you very much.
The next question is from Honorable Lot.
Honorable Deputy President, regarding asset management, the horror stories around Eskom and how it has been managed over several years has not yet fully been told. Before we can move forward, we need to know the full extent of what we are dealing with. There has been reports that the asset registry in Eskom do not really reflect what they have. that there's stuff that's on the books that's not even at any of the plants. Would the Honourable Deputy President consider a period for contractors, Eskom employees, whistleblowers to come forward to tell the full story? Because at the moment, there's individuals that walk around fearing their lives because they have dared to speak up towards this. So would you consider putting forward such a period so that people can come forward without fear of retribution, so that we know what the full story is and so that we can move forward?
Deputy President.
Thank you very much. Well, there's been an attempt on the side of government to explore all avenues that will help us come close to the truth, especially on what we call state capture. We have instituted all these commissions to allow our people to come forward and say whatever they say they know. In terms of all these SOEs, we can't say Eskom alone. So that platform has been created, and we still call upon our people to come forward if they know whatever wrong that has been done. I cannot say that Eskom is not fully aware of its own assets, because Eskom is a company that has been working, operating, and on the basis of its asset register, Eskom went out to borrow money. Definitely, they should be aware of the assets they own, because they've borrowed money against the assets they have. And government came in as a guarantor, but these funders that have borrowed Eskom money, they borrowed them on the basis of their strength of their assets. Now, assets which in the main are the power stations, the challenge that we see and that we have noticed over time is that these assets were not well maintained. These power stations were not well maintained. There were moments when they were pushed too hard because we wanted electricity, we wanted to avoid load shedding, so they were pushed beyond their capacity. And these assets, some of them, are old. There are continuous disruptions, breakages, that at times these breakages are not planned, and they disrupt the entire power system. So Eskom failed over time to do planned maintenance. If you do planned maintenance, that means you switch off a power station, knowing the power that you have, you still supply your people, but maintain that power station. You know how much energy you're taking out of the grid, you know how much energy is left out of the grid, so that is planned maintenance. But over the past few years, we've been hit by unplanned maintenance. All of a sudden, a power station that has been running, for instance, I'll take Andrina Power Station that generates more or less above 3,000 megawatts. If that power station can be interrupted, we lose the entire 3,000 megawatts. And that definitely will result into load shedding, because it's unexpected, it was unplanned. I'm sure Eskom is aware of its own assets, but the problem with these assets is that they were not well kept, they were not well maintained. Thank you.
The next supplementary question will come from Honorable Matibe.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and we really appreciate the responses that we have been given by the Deputy President. The reason why every time you come here, Deputy President, Escom is one of the questions we are asking is because Escom is too important for our country to fail. The other areas have been covered, but the one that I think I would like the Deputy President to speak on is the areas of partnership with private sector, so that we were able to enhance the grid reliability while at the same time we have a generation of electricity through an environmentally friendly method of generation of electricity. Thank you very much, Deputy President.
Thank you very much. I'm sure as government we are taking that very same approach to say, well, let's diversify. Let's diversify. The pressure is just too much on Eskom. The failure of Eskom can make the entire country to fail. So in the process, try and diversify. We have then allowed independent power producers to come into the space. They are now generating, and we are going to open more and more for these independent power generators to produce energy so that this energy can augment the capacity of Eskom. But we proposed, the President proposed that we need to restructure Eskom. I've visited China and I went to their state grid. China has got 5 generating companies. They're generating electricity, they are separate. China has got 2 transmission companies. China has got 3 distribution companies. In that way, I think they've managed to, in a planned way, avoid the risk that might happen in any economy and to ensure that there's continuous supply, sustainability of this supply of energy. So as a country, the proposed way that we say we must take, that of restructuring Eskom, we'll consider creating 1 or 2 companies that will still be involved in generation. We'll still consider having 2 or 3 companies that will be involved in the transmission of electricity, and companies that will be involved in the distribution. In this case, we are able to isolate and insulate problems. If one company has got a problem, the others will be in a position to supply energy. Unlike in this case, if this one company of ours has got problems, we all sneeze, we all catch flu. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll now move to the next question, which is question 8 from Dr. Ryder on the sewage situation in Faline, directed to the Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. During the oral reply session in this House on the 11th of September, we indicated that we will visit Faline local municipality to assess progress on government's efforts towards addressing the sewer spillage challenges that are impacting on the Vaal River system pollution. Indeed, we took that visit on the 12th of September as indicated. I was joined by the Minister of Human Settlement, Water and Sanitation, the Deputy Minister, the Gauteng MEC, and the mayors of Sidibeng and Mfuleni respectively, as well as senior officials from the South African National Defence Force, COCTA, and Gauteng province. While pollution challenges still remain, we were encouraged by the progress that the intervention of the South African Defence Force has made in resolving the sewer spillage, the infrastructure network blockages, the sewer pollution flowing into the Vaal River. There has been significant progress. Through the intervention of the Department of Human Settlement, Water and Sanitation, progress has been made in upgrading the existing waste treatment plant to respond to the growth of the human settlement areas around Mpho. Work is currently underway to expedite the commissioning of additional capacity resulting from upgraded infrastructure. In fact, the work that is happening at Mpho is quite inspiring, but of course we must say there's been a delay and lack of maintenance of the existing infrastructure. So we had several discussions with the Menace of Human Settlement regarding the situation in Mpho and the pollution of the Vaal River. In addition, the Presidency and the Human Settlement and Sanitation Department, COCTA, they are currently having ongoing engagement with the Office of the Premier in Gauteng, the municipalities, so that we can increase our support to that situation. Given the fact that the Vaal River system cuts through and benefits 4 provinces, it has been agreed that a collaborative intergovernmental approach is required to holistically respond to the pollution challenges across the entire Vaal River system. In this regard, the provinces of Gauteng, Free State, Mpumalanga, and Northern Cape will be required to work together to implement coordinated intervention that will drastically reduce the pollution in the Vaal River. Within a short while, we will be convening a meeting with the premiers of these affected provinces to ensure that we agree on an implementation of an integrated plan that will respond comprehensively to the challenges of sewer spillage that continue to pollute the Vaal River. Despite progress made to date, it is evident that more urgent work still needs to be done to fully contain the Vaal River system pollution. In the main, urgent intervention include upgrading of aging bulk sewer and reticulation infrastructure, which contributes to the diversion of sewer into the river. The team led by the Minister of Human Settlement, Water and Sanitation has shared with us a comprehensive plan with clear sets of action and required resources. It has been indicated on our visit that 1.1 billion will be required to stop the pollution of the Vaal River. The Department of Water and Sanitation, working with Gauteng COCTA, the Municipal Infrastructure Support Agency, the National Defence Force, Ekurhuleni Water Care Company, Mpho Local Municipality, and Rand Water, they've developed an intervention plan to stop the pollution into the Vaal River. The intervention includes 44 pump stations and 3 waste water treatment plants, namely Sebokeng, Leeuwkel, and Rietspruit. It also includes replacing and repairing gravity-raising mains, leak detection, and addressing deficiencies in the network system. The Minister of Human Settlement, Water and Sanitation has already appointed Ekurhuleni Water Care Company to attend to the urgent task of unblocking the sewer reticulation system and fixing leakages to ensure that sewer flows into the Vaal River are completely eliminated. To successfully deal with water pollution and negative environmental impact, we need to mobilize more and more resources to ensure that the Vaal River situation is completely resolved in the short, medium, and to the long term. The Department of Human Settlement has reprioritized in its own budget an amount of 240 million in its regional bulk infrastructure grant to support the South African National Defence Force in its work of improving the sewer treatment plant. The Gauteng Provincial Coctor Department, together with Mfuleni local municipality, have reprioritized an amount of 90 million and 20 million respectively in order to try and support the work done by the Department of Human Settlement. The Department of Human Settlement has further requested funding from the National Treasury for the shortfall of 750 million rand. To fast-track the Human Settlement Development Program and contribute towards economic development in the Mfuleni local municipality, the capacity of the waste treatment plants in the area should be augmented. It is estimated that the cost of this project, when it is fully completed, it will cost the country 6 billion, and a proposal has been submitted to National Treasury to fund this program. As the presidency will continue to work closely with all the role players and stakeholders to ensure that we resolve the sewer spillage challenges and restore the integrity of the Vaal River. Thank you very much.
The first supplementary response is from our rider.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Deputy President. The Mfuleni municipality has given up. So thank you for your recent visit. It was much appreciated. And you pledged the 1.1 billion, which I think is necessary. When the NCOP Gauteng delegation visited a few days later, the Executive Mayor advised us that they needed 6 billion in order to start, and only when they got that 6 billion, it would take another year to fix the problem. Mr. Deputy President, the instruction from the erstwhile Water and Sanitation Minister, Minister Nkwinti, to get the 44 pump stations running has been ignored. As you say, the SANDF has done a fantastic job at the treatment works, but they're under capacity, so they can't commission the treatment works until the pump stations move the raw sewage up to the treatment works in order to treat it. The municipality is not spending any of their own money on the sewer network and are saying that national government must help them. They've given up. They cannot perform the most basic service delivery tasks due to a lack of their own funds. The inability to procure diesel for their vehicles to enable them to get to sites means that residents suffered recently for 4 days with no electricity. Councillors are giving the municipality money for diesel out of their own pockets. The water leaks that are left attended for 3-4 days at a time, even as the rest of Gauteng is asked to save water in this time of water scarcity because of a lack of capacity and diesel. And of course, as you mentioned, the sewage continues to flow into the river network, affecting the drinking water. The municipality has been placed on terms by Escom and was placed under Section 139 administration. All that they did was they appointed the municipal manager as the administrator. So it's just business as
Can I ask the
usual.
honourable member to
You
speed
gave him
up?
7 minutes, Chair. I'm concluding. Thank you. It's business as usual, Deputy President. His first act was to spend 3 million covering up his tracks. When will your government, Deputy
time is
President,
up, honourable
place the
member.
municipality under full administration?
Time is up. Thanks, Deputy President.
Thank you very much. Well, it's one thing to place the municipality under full administration, and it's another thing to attend to the problem that is before us. Now, our intention of visiting there was to try and garner all the support that we can so that all of us can focus to the problem at hand. And I'm sure we are going to win. The urgent task that we said they must report back in 2 months. We want all the pump stations to be revamped because the problem of the spillage in the township and all that is because of these pumps that are not working. And beyond that, the money that they are requiring, this money is going to be made available, but it won't be made available at a go. We want to see progress. We'll move together with the province, the municipality, the Department of Human Settlement and Culture, so that we derive value for the money that we're going to spend there. And we are going to open the new treatment plants that are there in order to augment and release and relieve the entire system. But what is urgent is to unblock the blockages that are there so that sewer can flow. We avoid spillage that goes into the river. So I don't think we should be deterred. Let us be focused so that we assess the situation there and try and deal with this problem that is affecting the river. The river is a source of life for a number of communities. So it's an urgent situation. Thank you very much.
Honorable Zandamel.
Thank you, Chairperson. Deputy President, the SANDF was deployed in Neguruleni to come and assist with the problems of the sewer. And the allocation, the money that was allocated, the 90+ million that you just informed the House about, they've since exhausted that money. Hence, they can't continue now doing what they are supposed to do there. Now, is it true that in the 4th administration, there was an allocation of about 3 billion that was allocated to deal with the sewer problems of Mpho? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Honourable Member, I'm not aware of money that was allocated in the 4th administration to deal with that problem. The only thing that I'm aware of is what is happening now in the 5th and the 6th administration, where I got closer to the situation. When the Defence Force was deployed there, money was made available through the Department of Defense itself. Now, they did the work. They tried to unblock everything. It's better. I think our soldiers did a very good job there to try and unblock the entire treatment plant that was at a standstill. Now, the treatment plant is not working to its full capacity. I can say it's now working more or less at 55%. The problem is that the entire system has blocked, is not bringing sewer into the treatment plant. Hence, they've identified all the pump stations that must pump sewer in the entire Mpho into the system. That has been identified as an urgent step. But in the process, instead of attending to the aging infrastructure, the municipality was building a new treatment plant. In fact, not one treatment plant, 2 treatment plants adjacent to one another. They could not even complete them, but the entire system was failing. So what is happening now is to try and unblock the old system and ensure that it's working, because it has been now affecting the Vaal Reef. Now, beyond that, we must now open the 2 new treatment plants so that we can ease the pressure in the entire system. So yes, I'm not aware whether money was given to this municipality before. I was not really impressed about the management of things in the municipality, and I'm sure the province will do its best to try and get the municipality to attend to its responsibility. The Department of Culture, together with Human Settlement, they will pool together with the municipality. They must ensure that this project is finished on time. We are going to take another visit early next year to ensure that all the things that we've agreed upon have been done. So consistently, we are going to give this House feedback on progress, because it's important. The pollution of that river affects the entire Gauteng, affects Mpumalanga, affects Free State. It affects a lot of people. So it's a problem that we must attend. Thank you very much.
Next question comes from Honorable Boshoff.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good afternoon, Deputy President. It would appear as if accountability for local government failures just doesn't exist in the dictionary of our ruling party. Civic organizations like Save the Environment have on numerous occasions tried to enforce the law by going to court. And one of these court cases ensured that the previous municipal manager, Mr. Sam Chabalala, had 6 warrants of arrest against his name, and nothing has happened. Mr. President, his transgression was that he did not ensure that the sewer flowed into the Vaal River. You've now spoken about the water, the pump stations that are working, and you've cleaned up this and you've cleaned up that. But if we do not hold our officials to account, we cannot expect the Vaal River to be cleaned up. Deputy President, what I would like to know from you is, when will Mr. Sam Chabalala be arrested? And when will the current municipal manager be held accountable for the failures that are currently taking place? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, in terms of the arrest of the municipal manager or whoever is there, can you and me allow that to be done by the right institutions that are capable of doing that? I'm not sure about the warrant of arrest, what is the charge and all that, so leave it to them. But your problem is, which I understand, the province of Gauteng must attend to the leadership problem in that space. They must attend to it. But of course, what I've noticed at Mpho is that also residents are to be blamed. I mean, the municipality can't have all the money to fix this infrastructure, to fix this, if people are not paying for the water, if people are not paying for the electricity, A municipality is a business. I can only sell you services, and you must pay for these services so that I can maintain and continue to provide you services. So this is the problem that we're talking about in the first question, to say our people must learn to pay for services. If you get water in your house, you must know that you must pay for this water. If you get electricity, you must pay for this electricity, so that whoever is responsible to bring the electricity can maintain the infrastructure and can continue to supply you with those services. So these are some of the weaknesses. That is not to say we condone the leadership failures. It was supposed to be upon this leadership to ensure that people pay. And if people are not paying, you have got the right to switch off. There's no other way. There's no other way. There's no way where we can get free money to come and fix this infrastructure if people are not paying. That must happen. With regards to criminal offenses and whatnot, let's allow the police and our justice system to take care of that. Thank you very much.
Honorable Shaik.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Deputy President, you have already said in your response, but the former Deputy Minister of Kokta, Honorable Obed Bapela, last year also indicated that if the sewage system in the Vaal River is left unattended, it had the potential of contaminating drinking water to over 4 provinces, which you have mentioned. Deputy President, I'd like to know, has the problem been contained? And what long-term plans have been put in place to ensure that we do not experience this challenge again? And what long-term plans have been put in place so that this challenge affects both water quality, but also the environment? Thank you.
Deputy President.
Well, since my visit there, I can account for what I've seen on the ground. And the briefing that I had, and the workings of the treatment plants there that I've seen. The bigger treatment plant that is there is now working because of the National Defense Force, their efforts to unblock it. Now it's working at a rate of more or less 55 to 60%. Remember, this treatment plant is receiving the sewer in the entire Mpho. Now, if they say it's working up to 60% and there are still blockages, that means the problem is not been resolved 100%. There are still some spillages along the way that can't reach the treatment plant. So that is the work that must be done urgently to try and replace the pump stations so that sewer can reach the treatment plant. But we must commend the intervention by the Defense Force, the work that they've done. It has, to a large extent, eased the burden from the community, from the people in and around Mpho. Of course, the intervention led by Human Settlement, Kokta, and the province, I am confident standing here that it will yield good results. But going forward, it is the municipality's responsibility to maintain whatever will be left behind. Thank you very much.
We'll now move over to question 9, put forward by ZV Ncita on stimulating rural and/or township economies, directed to the Deputy President.
Thank you, Chairperson. We can confirm that indeed we are prioritizing certain provinces in terms of stimulating and supporting rural and township economies, especially those that are mostly rural and underserviced. As we had indicated recently in this very House, our objectives as this administration is to transform our township and villages from the current state of labor and consumption reserves into thriving, productive investment hubs. As government, we are prioritizing a special approach and bringing a greater sub-national focus into our development strategy through the district-based model. This is not only about provincial convergence, but it is also about the relationship between rural and urban spaces, between poor and the rich municipalities, between townships and villages, to achieve a truly integrated form of development that fosters economic inclusion and job creation. At the core of our efforts to revitalize the rural and township economies is creating linkages with national interventions that inform our industrial strategy. The focus is on the expansion of manufacturing, mining, agriculture, automotive, and other sectors. As indicated before, an important pillar of this industrial strategy is to develop new economic centers through our special economic zones, revitalization of industrial sites, as well as business and digital hubs. For example, we currently have 10 special economic zones that are located and spread across various provinces in our country. These are also based on comparative advantages of each province and location. Our government efforts of supporting the citrus industry are targeted at the Eastern Cape, Limpopo, and Western Cape, while agro-processing can support Free State and Mpumalanga. The promotion of beneficiations of our minerals will support mining in Northern Cape and Northwest provinces, as well as expansion of industrial activities in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal. More importantly, focus on beneficiations of raw materials and products will diversify the composition of South Africa's exports to global markets. The provinces of Gauteng, Eastern Cape, and KwaZulu-Natal have the automotive sector, which could support existing and new township and rural businesses in the automotive sector to enter global value chains through manufacturing of car components. The other interventions by our government is the establishment of additional incubators through the Small Development Agency in provinces of Free State, Mpumalanga, Limpopo, Northern Cape, and Northwest. Therefore, in coordinating all these efforts, our primary objective is to build on the existing national efforts that are already underway, expand access, and ensure that development models that we introduce assist us in achieving economic inclusion. As government, we endeavor to utilize public sector procurement in order to leverage the development and growth of rural and township enterprises. On a daily basis, government procure huge volume of goods and services for consumption in public facilities. The Office of the Deputy President has already convened technical level consultation with all provinces to present interventions that are currently being implemented in various provinces. Provinces are already implementing workable models that need upscaling and consolidation to achieve maximum impact across the country. The emerging picture is that these empowerment models can best support agricultural production and the local manufacturing of construction material for infrastructure and the built environment projects. These interventions are best placed to support the development of rural and township economies, given their pervasive nature across the country. As government, we have a responsibility to provide the necessary infrastructure, financial, and mentorship support to township and rural enterprises. We believe that government has the relevant policies and relevant strategies in place, that ours is to fast-track this work towards efficient and sustainable delivery at the right quality to all South Africans. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Deputy President. Let's move on to the first supplementary question from Honorable Z.N. Ngita.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Let me thank the Deputy President for the response of the question tabled. What I would like to know from the Deputy President, in line with the support that you have referred to rural communities and as well as township communities, what is the progress which will be moving in speed with greater speed in distributing land to our people, especially for agriculture, and creating a business center for SMMEs in rural areas and in townships? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Well, in the near future, we will be announcing the parcels of land that will be redistributed to our people, especially new entrances, young people, and women. Now, we are currently working on the redistribution policy, the criteria that will be used to identify these young people, to identify women that will benefit from this land redistribution. The intention of distributing this land is to expand the scope and scale of our production capacity as a country. We are allowing new entrances into the agricultural sector so that we can produce more food for our own domestic consumption and for export purposes. So in this area, in this sector of our work, we're expecting more and more small, medium enterprises that will be supported by government. Now, we are also tabling a new support model that will be worked and be shaped around the district model on how best we're going to support farmers, small, medium, and commercial farmers located in a district. We support them to produce. So this support model should have all the support mechanism that government can use to support small farmers, like your crop, your mechanization, everything that we can do to support small farmers will be found in that support hub, which is located at a district. Now, in this way, we want to make use of every space in our land to cultivate the land, produce more food, to fight hunger, and to export this food. But in the main, we are also encouraging provinces to support these SMMEs by availing their procurement processes by availing their provinces, their buying power as a market to support these small, medium enterprises, offer them a market for their produce. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The next supplementary question is from Honorable Muima.
Ke a leboga, modulasetulo, my appreciation, DP, for correctly characterizing the township economy. The question that I want to pose, the Deputy President, is as follows. Has the government also considered reviewing the framework on local economic development, particularly given the fact that the township economy by its nature and rural economy is survivalist and is also characterized by low income household, given the fact that you have indicated also that the technical support will be put in place to drive the district model. Will also the DP consider putting in place the political infrastructure in the form of political champions to drive this technical support, given the fact that at the technical level we would expect probably the DG in the DP's office or the DG in the COCTA's office. Will the Deputy President also consider putting in place the political infrastructure by identifying a particular minister that will champion this township and rural economies? And in addition, let me also take this opportunity to express gratitude on behalf of the 8 senior traditional leaders in John Talagaitsewi in Kuruman, Northern Cape, where you were able to provide them with intervention, particularly to boost farming interventions, but also the people of Swoding that you were able to give
Please
them
mind the
Swoding.
time,
Thank you,
Honourable Member.
Chairperson.
Much, Chair. Now, as government, we are insisting on prioritizing SMMEs. Now, this importance that we attach to SMMEs can be traced back, can be seen on our efforts of placing SMME development right at the center. We even moved further to create a department of small businesses. Now, the Minister of Small Business remains the champion. She must champion the development of small businesses. Our understanding is that there can't be any economy that will thrive, any big economy, growing economy, has its basis, has its foundation on small, medium enterprises. These small enterprises that hire 10, 15, 20 people, they form a very strong foundation of a thriving economy. Now, our attitude of opening up special economic zones is to try and take infrastructure into these townships. Our effort of revitalizing industrial parks that were there is to try and bring infrastructure and services to those forbidden townships and villages where there's poverty. Now, we want to encourage our SMMEs to stay in their rural areas, to stay in their villages, but we bring infrastructure that will support them to do business. Now, you will be aware that in a number of villages, townships, already there are these big malls, retail business, that has in a way undermined these general dealers that were there, that we know in the past, that used to thrive in our township, in our villages. But through the advent of these big chain stores, malls, now they tended to affect those small general dealers and whatnot. So our intention is to try and open up, deal with competition models, so that these small, medium enterprises, whatever they are producing, should be tested, whether it's of quality. The quality is, if it's of good standard, government must present a platform for them to buy these products. And these products can also be sold in those big retail stores. Now, it's just for government to ensure that we intervene. We intervene. There's no reason why a small farmer who's farming there can't bring his or her produce into this mall. This mall is taking produce from elsewhere, not supporting a farmer close here. There's no reason why a small farmer can't be supported by the Department of Education that is feeding children. There's no reason why a small farmer can't be supported by the Department of Correctional Services that is feeding your prisoners, by the Department of Health that is feeding patients in hospital. It just needs the intervention of government to ensure that these small enterprises are supported and they are mentored so that we reduce the rate of them failing. Some, they start their business and they fail. Part of the problem is that these small enterprises, as much as they strive very hard to enter into business, they try and provide services and they are not paid on time. Some of the culprits that are not paying these SMMEs on time are our municipalities, our provincial governments, and our national government. And that is going to come to an end. Thank you very much.
Honorable Matebula.
Thank you very much, Chair Nakens. Deputy President, the small farmers, not the small manufacturers, producer, mara abanyiki opportunity ya ku xavisa swilo swa vona ka the big malls. So tani government ana tatwa ku hi tihi tindlela leti mi ti endlaka ku hatlisisa ku these small manufacturers va kota ku xavisa ka the big malls. Nakens.
Well, first of all, we must make it a point that these small farmers, these SMMEs, are supported financially and are supported in terms of the relevant skills. If you are in farming, you must know how to farm best so that your produce are of good quality. It's not like you are just fighting to sell those, but they are of good quality. You are not imposing yourself. You are selling something that is of good quality. So government's intervention is to ensure that the production that is happening in those township and villages must be of good quality, must be supported financially. But the next step is to ensure that we break this monopoly. These chain stores, we need to ensure that our small, medium enterprises are also given a platform to sell their produce. But as government, we must lead by example, because on a daily basis, we procure goods and services. Why are we not offering these SMMEs the platform? But we are bad payers. We can buy from SMMEs, and we take 90 days to pay. And this person is employing 5 or 10 people. If you stay for 90 days not paying this person, you are killing the business. So as much as we are working hard, the president is working hard to attract foreign investment. We are working hard as government to support SMMEs, but the attitude of government must change. Pay services on time.
Honorable Masangu. Then the next person is to be Honorable Lont.
Honourable Deputy President, thank you for the answer that you gave. There is, however, concern that we hear about projects and interventions year after year, and the majority of them don't always make the impact that we would have hoped that they make. And quite often it feels like we are throwing good money after these projects and not necessarily getting out what we should. Isn't it time that we start rolling out such programs and intervention in conjunction with stakeholders that have a proven track record of delivering? I'm going to use one such example, and it's a bit tongue-in-cheek, but the Western Cape doesn't just consist about in the city of Cape Town. There's rural municipalities in this province as well. And one of those municipalities is called Mossel Bay. And that municipality has worked extremely well with a very limited budget to stimulate and support their rural communities. Places like Brandwag, Reiterbos, Friemersheim. And with that little funds they've achieved tremendous success. I mean, just last year they were rewarded as one of the best run municipalities in South Africa by Good Governance Africa. Just imagine what those municipalities can do with the financial backing and support by the national government to successfully establish best practices and then roll that out to other municipalities. Isn't it time that we start rewarding good behavior with municipalities in a proven track record and not keep on chasing those that have scandal upon scandal upon scandal and don't deliver what we expect? So would you be willing to take the hands with municipalities like Mossel Bay, give them the financial backing on the basis of the good track record of good governance, and then establish best practices that we can roll out to the rest of the country?
Well, thank you very much. We'd like to visit this municipality of Mossel Bay so that we can learn the good things that they're doing. It's always important to learn from those people that are excelling in what they do. But the difference is that those that are failing should not be abandoned. We're not going to abandon those that are failing. We're going to assist them until they succeed. We're going to learn from those that are doing well, and we're going to replicate those good models, because it's just a question of party politics in our case. But I don't think South Africans really entertain our party political differences. South Africans want progress. Now, as you can see and hear outside here, South Africans are happy about the achievement of the Springboks. They are not worried about our party political differences. They are happy about an achievement. So, as much as we do our work, let's see what is working. Let's replicate what is working. Let's try and attend to what is not working and correct it. So I'm open to visit that municipality. It is my responsibility. It's government. So I can't say, no, I can't visit this municipality because it's run by TA. No. I'm going to visit that municipality, learn what I can learn, replicate good practices, assist those that are not doing very well. Because if you assist those municipalities, you are assisting the population and the communities around those municipalities. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. We'll now move on to question 10. Question 10 is a question from Honorable M.O. Mokause on the interaction with ministers directed at the Deputy President.
Thank you, Chair. Our primary role in leading government business in Parliament involves the following key responsibilities: monitoring the affairs of the National Executive in Parliament, ensuring programming of parliamentary business initiated by the National Executive within the time allocated for that purpose, ensuring that cabinet members attend to their parliamentary responsibility, performing any other function provided for by the joint rules or a resolution of the National Assembly or the National Council of Provinces or resolutions adopted in both houses. In this regard, we constantly remind members of the executive to prioritize their parliamentary responsibilities, including responding to parliamentary questions timelessly, both oral and written. Furthermore, as leader of government business in Parliament, we are required to present in every cabinet meeting a status report of all outstanding written replies in both houses of Parliament and a roster of attendance of all ministers and deputy ministers. According to the latest Leader of Government Business Report that was presented to Cabinet on the 30th of October 2019, the Minister of Public Enterprise was asked a total of 5 written questions from the NCOP, and all of them have since been responded to. We have also been advised that in the 5th Parliament, in the 5th administration, the Minister received a total of 54 questions from the economic freedom fighters, of which out of the 54, 53 were answered, and only 1 question remained unanswered or it lapsed. It is against this backdrop that we equally encourage all members of the executive to fulfill their obligations as imposed upon them by the Constitution and the joint rules of Parliament by not only responding to parliamentary questions, but through participation in all legislative processes and appearing before relevant committees to give effect to their accountability role. Thank you very much.
First supplementary question from M.O. Mokause.
Thank you, Chairperson. Deputy President, lawmakers of the EFF wrote letters to Minister Godana. The first letter was to ask about his relationship with Werkman attorneys. The second letter was to ask about why didn't he disclose his UK trip paid by Werkman attorneys. The third letter was to ask why his interference in the appointment of Mango CEO Nico, who does not even have an entry-level matric. The fourth letter was to ask about the appointment of the incompetent Eskom chair, Jabu Mabuza. Now, Minister Godana keeps on ignoring lawmakers of the EFF. He acts as if he's above the law. He acts as if he's above Parliament itself. Now, to you, this type of conduct, doesn't this amount to a constitutional delinquent? Yes.
No, thank you very much. I am sure the relationship that we have here in Parliament, members of Parliament, and the executive. There's a defined relationship that is governed by our rules, governed by the law of our country, the Constitution. Today I'm standing in front of you not because I want to, it's because of the rules that govern these houses. I cannot come here as I wish. It's compulsory for me to stand in front of you and to respond to your question. It's not I'm not making you a favor. It's a responsibility that I must fulfill. So I'll encourage that we stay within the confines of the law. Now, I can't say anything if you have written private letters to each other. You see, I am compelled to answer your question because your question has been processed the right way through this House, and the question has come to me, and I'm answering it. I don't have a choice. But if you write to one another outside the realm of this House, how will I know? How will I know? And I can go and ask the minister and say, the EFF honorable members in the NCOP have written to you, and the minister might say, no, they have not. I have not received the letter. So the best way to ensure that any communication from yourself gets to the members of the executive is through your systems in the House. Thank you very much.
Point arising, Honourable Member.
On a point of order,
What is the point of order?
lawmakers both in Parliament and the National Council of Provinces has got no reason at all to write private letters to ministers. We wrote official letters, and we've got proof.
Yes, but what is the
As
point
a
of
deputy
order?
president, we're asking, does that type of attitude not amounting to constitutional delinquency? You did not answer the question.
No, thank you very much. That's not the point of order. Honourable Nyambi.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Deputy President, for your detailed response. We view this arrangement that we are in today as an important session for oversight. But one thing for sure, we can't turn question session to Deputy President to a complaint platform for members of Parliament who should be well aware of processes that should follow when raising conduct about executive members. My question to you, Deputy President, has there been any formal complaint raised with you as a leader of government business or Deputy President by any member of Parliament or political party, or even through leadership of Parliament, particularly presiding officers, about the alleged persistent ignorance of correspondence and questions by the Minister of Public Enterprise? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thanks, Honourable Member. I am not aware of any written request that came to my office to say there is this problem. I am not aware. The position of a leader of government business, it's a very important position. So that if there are problems between the executive, Parliament, and the NCOP, that position remains a conduit to resolve these problems. So we must use it. We must use it because the intention is to get the minister concerned to respond The intention is not just to make a statement. You want the response, so we hear. You can formally write to the office of the leader of government business and raise that concern. But from time to time, I'm working with this institution, the NCOP, I'm working with the National Assembly, I'm following all questions for written reply, all questions for oral reply. I'm looking at all of them. And I know which minister has not answered this question and that question, and I follow up on your behalf. That's what I do. To say, Minister, you have not responded to this question, it's now almost 12 days. What is the problem? Respond to this question. Why are you not responding? Why are you not giving a written reply? So that's my role. Probably next time, let's formalize the complaining system. Thank you.
Honorable Winning Gwenye.
Thank you, Chairperson. Mhlonishwa Sekela Mwengameli. Uma ngempela ziyiqiniso lezi zinto ongqongqoshe bayaqhubeka nokushaya indiva imibuzo evela kumalungu lolu daba olubucayi lomthetho sisekelo esingeke siluthathe kalula. Ngakho ke kubalulekile ukuthi lendlu nabantu baseningizimu Afrika bahlomule ngokuthi bazi izinto ezimbili njengoba ubusuchazile. Manje umbuzo wami Sekela Mongameli uthi ingabe uSekela Mongameli usetsheniwe ngenqubo emisiwe yemibuzo. Ingabe lemibuzo yathunyelwa ngendlela ehambisana nenqubo yokuthunyelwa nokuphendulwa kwemibuzo ngendlela ehambisana nemithetho esunguliwe kulendlu. Ingabe lemibuzo iyavela uma ibekwa ephepheni lemibuzo. Kuyisiphakamiso kwesami Sekela Mongameli ukuthi uma uSekela Mongameli engenayo lemibuzo sikuhlehlise ukuphendulwa kwayo bese sibuya impendulo kungakudala. Ngiyabonga.
I'll give the opportunity to the Deputy President to make his comment. Of course, the questions are somewhat similar, but there may be an angle or two that makes them slightly different.
Thank you very much to the question and the comment. The procedure that you are using as this House to channel questions to ministers, to all of us, to the President, to the Deputy President, is the procedure that we're all acquainted to. I am not aware of any other procedure, and it will be very difficult for me to find out if anything can happen outside these known procedures. I said I'm responding to these questions because they came from yourself, through your processes, and finally, they reached my office. And I took the trouble to sit down and respond to these questions. I was not there when you were asking these questions, but the questions finally arrived at my desk through the processes that we have set in place ourselves. That is why I'm here today to respond. So I can only account as a leader of government for all the questions that were put in the system, either for written responses or for oral responses. But I'm not going to just dismiss the honorable members. Beyond this, I want all copies of these letters that were written so that we can assist them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The last supplementary question comes from Honorable Michael Shackleton.
Okay. Thank you very much, House Chair. I'm visiting today from the Gauteng Provincial Legislature. My name is Michael Shackleton, as introduced by the House Chair. Thank you. Thank you. Honorable Deputy President, the problem of unanswered...
Order, honorable members. The Honorable Michael Shackleton is speaking in this House for the first time. So let's give him space to raise the question.
Yes, member of EFF. Thank you very much, Chair, for your protection. Honourable Deputy President, the problem of unanswered written questions does not just lie with the Minister of Public Enterprises. Most of the Cabinet are equally guilty of failure to reply to DA NCOP written questions. A total of between 70 to 80 written questions have been left unanswered by various ministers. The top offenders include the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs with 9, the Minister of Police with 8, and the Minister of Communications, Telecommunications, and Postal Services with 5. As the leader of government business, what will you do to compel ministers to abide by their obligation of being accountable to Parliament and thus answer their written questions? Thank you, House Chair.
Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you very much. Like I said, every time in Cabinet, we present a report that takes into account all the questions that are submitted by members in both houses. And we check with the offices of the different ministers whether they've responded. And we are aware, even on the number of questions that remain unanswered. We're aware of the number of questions that were answered. So we start to have a problem. We start to have a problem with the minister if the number of questions that remain unanswered goes beyond 10. 10 is an acceptable number. They can work on it, but we also put the timeline to say this questions cannot go beyond this timeline. They must be answered too. But we don't accept all the ministers as I speak. No one has got more than 20 questions outstanding. All of them, they rove around, some 2 or 3, around 12, but the rest is 3, 4, 5. They are all within the acceptable limit. When they go overboard, then I step in and demand that this question must be answered. So there's no extraordinary situation. We all fine. This question, I think it arises because the letters and the questions that we talk about have not followed the normal parliamentary procedure. It was a communication between the minister and the members, but not through the process of parliament. Thank you.
What's the point of order?
Chair, I want to bring to the attention of the Deputy President that he must not be surprised whilst members are heckling Mike, a non-permanent delegate. We are not used to it. Most non-permanent delegates come and warm these benches and leave afterwards. Thanks, Mike, for coming to work.
Now, thank you very much. We'll proceed to, yes. Is that a point of order, Honorable Nyambi?
Chair, I never wanted to disturb the Deputy President, but it's a point of order in relation to the previous speaker coming to the House making a statement that is misleading the House. On Tuesday this week, here in the House, when we're dealing with the economic cluster, we happen to have 3 departments, 3 ministers. And as an NCOP, we have a rule that punish those that are not responding to questions. And he mentioning even ministers that were here to account, deliberately misleading the House. So I'm making a point of order, Chair, that make a ruling probably in the next sitting about the statement made by that honorable member, because it's deliberately misleading this House.
The Honorable Nyambi, let's not have a dialogue in the House. We will look at the stats and the details, and at the next meeting, make a ruling on the matter. But for now, let's leave the situation as is. Thank you very much. The next question is question 11 from Honorable T.J. Brotenseth. The question is on the South African constitutional imperatives and is directed to the Deputy President.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chapter 2 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, Act number 108 of 1996, provides for the Bill of Rights that sets out the fundamental rights of all South Africans, including the right to dignity and the right to equality. This Bill of Rights is a cornerstone of our democracy and individual rights. It enshrines that the rights of all people in our country and affirms the democratic values of human dignity, equality, and freedom. Furthermore, Section 9.3 of the Bill of Rights refers to equality and provides as follows, I open quote, "The states may not unfairly discriminate directly or indirectly against anyone on one or more grounds, including race, gender, sex, pregnancy, marital status, ethnic or social origin, color, sexual orientation, age, disability, religion, belief, culture, and language, notwithstanding our constitutional provision. The honorable member should note that our laws should not be in violation of international law that we are signatories to. Under international law, the sovereignty of the states and their right to exercise their independence, including making their own laws without the interference of other states, is guaranteed. In this regard, our government upholds the international principle of non-interference in the internal affairs of other states. South Africa only intervenes in situations where parties in conflict officially request her assistance or intervention. Similarly, South Africa therefore respects the sovereignty of the Republic of Uganda and any other nation. In cases where our positions, our values, and approaches are in conflict with those of other countries, South Africa is of the view that such matters are best resolved at multilateral forums as provided for by our international conventions. In line with our constitutional provision, we condemn any form of human rights violation and abuses, especially when it's perpetrated by any state, including those directed to lesbian, gay, and transgender persons, otherwise known as LGBTQIA. As government, we have adopted a comprehensive rights approach to same-sex or LGBTQIA related rights. In this regard, in March 2011, the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development mandated the establishment of a national task team to develop a national intervention strategy that will address corrective rape. The department initiated a process of engaging key government departments and other institutions to develop the national task team to monitor pending cases relating to gender and sexual orientation-based crimes in the criminal justice system. We want to echo the President's call when he said, the violation of the rights and equal worth of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or intersex people demeans our common humanity as South Africans. Not only it exposes individuals to pain, it exposes individuals also to suffering and even violence, but it often limits access to social services and economic opportunities for people, for LGBT people in our country. Thank you very much.
Deputy President, the first supplementary question is from Honorable Tim.
Thank you, Deputy President. Deputy President, South Africa is a beacon in Africa for the protection of the rights of the LGBTIQ+ community. You have quoted, Deputy President, from the Bill of Rights, which is the bedrock of the rights that we're talking about. But what you don't have, what you have not touched on, is a recent judgment of the Constitutional Court. And that judgment says that whilst we respect the sovereignty of our neighbors, we must always strive to ensure that our relations with our neighbors are guided by relations that are just, equal, peaceful, human rights orientated, and contribute to the democratic order. Now, Deputy President, 34 countries in Africa have anti-gay legislation on their books. The irony, Deputy President, is the majority of this legislation is actually colonial era legislation. It's not African, it's European legislation. That's the irony. In places like Sudan, Somalia, Somaliland, Mauritania, and northern Nigeria, homosexuality is punishable by death, Deputy President. Uganda want to make homosexuality punishable by death. In places like Kenya, there was recently an attempt to repeal anti-gay legislation. The Kenyan High Court turned it down. And it's not only the gay community being targeted. Heterosexual allies like myself, I'm an ally of the community. If I live in Nigeria, I can go to jail for 10 years, Deputy President, for assisting a homosexual friend. So my question to you, surely as the man tasked with assisting the President in the running of this country, I'm asking you now, here and now, to take a principled stand and with pride, take a stand and condemn the actions of African legislators across Africa who are involved in human rights abuses. I ask you to do that, Deputy President.
Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much. It's not easy as the way you say it. My position and your position more or less similar. And I've said we are called upon by our constitution to respect the sovereignty of any state. And we must mind what we say about other people. There are agreed platforms, multilateral platforms like the AU, your SADC. All those are platforms where these matters can be discussed. But you can't put yourself to be morally above others. You can't put your belief to be the belief of the rest of the world. My belief, the way we believe in things as South Africans, we must not impose our belief to everyone, but we will seek to negotiate, we will seek to persuade people to see things the way we see them, and we're going to use the platforms that are provided for. So let us not be arrogant and think we're just the best out of this world. We are going to use these given platforms to raise our case, to raise our matters. The AU has got all these platforms, especially the African Commission on Human Rights, which is a body of the AU. That is the best platform. And I'm sure with time, this matter is going to be on the agenda of the AU, and our leaders will discuss it and find common consensus. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Dodovu.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy President, for your response. Both Uganda and South Africa are sovereign states, as you pointed out, and they are both bound by the Constitutive Act of the African Union, and they are both members of the Pan-African, both members of the African Union. And the expectation is that both countries must respect the protocols of the African Union. That is quite a common cause. Is there anything that binds us as a country to interfere in the internal affairs of another country, irrespective of where we stand as a country? And I think you answered that question quite well. But is there anything that binds us to interfere in the internal affairs of Uganda as some members expect us to do? Thank you very much.
The President.
Well, as we stand here, we are a country that is responsible for its own affairs. But as a country, we are part and parcel of countries of the world. We associate, we have joined certain multilateral forums where we cooperate and we see things the same way. We persuade one another. And you'll realize that in some of these multilateral fora, it's not always hunky-dory, things nice, everything is nice. There are moments where there's tensions amongst these countries on the issues that are on the table. So I am saying, don't seek to impose what you believe is right in your country and impose it on others. That is wrong. But there are mechanisms that are put in place that you can use to persuade one another, because our beliefs and our religions are not the same. Now, we are working from different backgrounds. Therefore, as a country, we're a sovereign country, guided by our own constitution that we've adopted. But if a country goes on and put a law, and the law in terms of their constitution is acceptable, that's it. But this question that you're talking about, the Constitutional Court of Uganda the Constitutional Court, just for your interest's sake, the Constitutional Court of Uganda has nullified the act. Now, it has nullified the act, and the Ugandan government has announced its intention to reintroduce the act. That was already signed by the president into an act, but it did not meet the constitutional standard. There were issues that were raised in that act, so the Constitutional Court nullified it. Now the act is back in the National Assembly of Uganda, and the intention of government is to reintroduce the act. So we're talking about a matter that is still on the table of the people of Uganda, that are discussing it. And I'm sure we must be decent enough to keep our mouth shut.
Thank you very much. Let's proceed to the next question. Honorable Mkause.
Thank you, Chairperson. Deputy President, what is happening in Uganda is bad. It's sickening and repulsive. It should not happen in Uganda. It should not happen in Nigeria. It should not even happen anywhere in the world. How people sleep with one another, where they sleep with each other, how they sleep with one another, should never concern any of us. Now, the silence of South Africa is questionable. We ask ourselves if this is driven by fear or cowardice. Deputy President, as a member state of the African Union, at this stage, shouldn't you have written already a strong condemnation statement relating to the disgust actions of Ugandan government? Thank you.
Order, members.
Well, I'm going to restate what I said. We'll always respect the sovereignty of Ugandan people and their government, and we'll only seek to persuade one another in the platforms that are provided for when we find that opportunity. But in terms of the survey that has been made, in 33 African countries that exhibited intolerance towards homosexuals in 2014 and 2015, it stood at 78%. Now, it's a belief system of people. And you might say, oh, well, they are backward. I'm a bit forward. I can understand. I can tolerate this. I can tolerate this. But as we stand, that survey, out of 33 African countries, out of 54, 55, 78% are showing intolerance. That means they can't tolerate it. It's in their belief system. So it's a matter of persuading them to say, this is how we think as South Africans. And we think it safeguards the human rights of every person. It protects every person. It protects the freedom of every person. But you can't impose yourself. No. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let's move on to Honorable Shackleton. Last question.
Thank you, Chair. I'm back, and I'm here as indicated from our member, Nana.
You're ungovernable.
Deputy President, something bothered me about your response to one of the questions on the same issue, where you mentioned essentially, and I'm paraphrasing here, that regarding human rights abuses, that we would respect the sovereignty of states totally, so as not to condemn any state and not to go into any state. And the natural consequence of that, if you go to the end of that, that would mean that any nation in Africa could do anything. They could even murder their population as a government, but then we would only enter if that government calls upon us to do so, which then would create, I think, a violation ethically in terms of who we are as South Africans and members of the Constitutive Act of the African Union as well. I don't think merely condemning an unethical act amounts to violation of sovereignty. So essentially, Deputy President, what I'm asking is taking into account what I've said and taking into account matters such as the al-Bashir case in the past. Is this national government committed to solving human rights abuses, and is this a national government truly devoted to human rights? Thank you, Deputy President.
Deputy President.
Well, I must assure South Africans that as this government, we're really committed to uphold our constitution, no matter what it takes. We are committed to ensure the freedoms that are enshrined in our constitution. We're committed to ensure that all our people enjoy the human rights that are spelled out in the Constitution. But you'll be aware, as I'm aware, that from time to time, even in our country, there are human rights violations that seek to shock us. As we speak, we all spoke one day, we met as these two houses, we condemned the killing of women. We condemn the killing of children. It is not in our nature, but it has happened. Some rights of certain people in our community, in our nation, have been violated. And we stood up, all of us, and said, not in South Africa. We'll work very hard to protect every human right, every freedom that we fought for that hard. So it does not mean that all the rights that are said in the Constitution, that we believe in, that we uphold them, there are no incidences of people tampering on those rights. And it does not mean that we don't want to advocate these rights into the world. Hence, our interactions, our participation in a number of multilateral fora. We spend a lot of money attending these meetings as a country because we want to persuade one another, want to influence one another, so that finally we have got a just and a peaceful world. It comes at a cost. It comes at a cost. If you see, you can see how many deputy ministers, how many ministers are participating in all these conventions, in all these multilateral forums. The reason is to persuade one another, is to work together. And it can take time for us to agree on something. Today we agree, tomorrow we don't agree. Tomorrow we agree, the other day we don't agree. But we are here committing ourselves that we're going to work for these human rights. We're going to defend peace. We're going to defend justice.
Thank you, Deputy President. We're now looking at the last question, which is question 12 from S.J. Mohai. on the South Africa, a climate change hotspot to the Deputy President.
Thank you, Chairperson. The question being raised by Honorable Mohai is very important when we are to consider the impact of climate change, especially on food production and agricultural sector as a whole. Recently, we have experienced drought in provinces like the Free State, Northern Cape, and the Eastern Cape, and partly it's because of climate change. If one considers, for example, areas such as Namakwa district in the Northern Cape and Harib district, the situation for farmers and communities dependent on crop and livestock farming has been very challenging. The Intergovernmental Panel, is there anything that I can try?
Okay, please behave. Yeah, behave.
Yes, of course, honorable members, we know that there's a limit. There are only 4 supplementary questions allowed. Waving papers and so on just created an additional drama that can be avoided. So please bear with those of us who are presiding officers. There's no space, so there are only four questions allowed. So I'll ask the Deputy President to please proceed.
Thank you very much. That was very unkind. Well, what can you do? When you're in Rome, you must do what the Romans do. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has identified South Africa as a hotspot for climate change. For our part as South Africa, we have undertaken risk and vulnerability assessment in all our provinces through the Department of Environment, Forest and Fisheries, and we continue to support the development of provincial adaptation plans. Critically, our government, in dealing with the behavioral change in the management of scarce resources that are impacted by climate change, it continues to prioritize educating our communities and industry players on the effects of climate change, the risk, the mitigation and adaptation strategies. Given our commitments under the Paris Agreement on climate change, we continue to endeavor to reduce the dependency of our energy from fossil fuel sources to cleaner ones, including renewable energies. To this end, Cabinet has recently approved the Integrated Resource Plan 2019 as part of government's commitment to reduce reliance on coal as a source of energy to less than 20% by 2050. South Africa is also a water-scarce country, and we should therefore look into technologies that improve precision irrigation for our agricultural sector. The South African Weather Services, in partnership with the Department of Environment, Forest and Fisheries, has initiated the development of the National Framework for Climate Change Services. This is aimed at providing updates on climate and weather information to guide decision-making. One of these framework's significant products to be developed is the early warning system, which will be critical for all climate-sensitive sectors, including agriculture. The South African National Biodiversity Institute coordinates the implementation of adaptation fund projects in Limpopo, KwaZulu-Natal, and the Northern Cape. These projects are aimed at developing communities and small-scale farmers in early warning systems, climate-proof settlements, as well as climate-resilient agriculture. Government is currently in the process of developing the National Adaptation Strategy that articulates intervention to strengthen capacity building, awareness, including mainstreaming climate change in school curricula. The National Adaptation Strategy will act as a common reference point for climate change adaptation efforts in the whole country. It will focus on key sectors such as water, health, agriculture, biodiversity, oceans, and the coasts. In our efforts to finance the climate change response initiatives, South Africa has concluded bilateral agreements with Germany that will enable the provision of support to South Africa's response initiatives through the Climate Support Program, as well as the government of Flanders in Belgium through the Third Country Support Strategy focusing on climate adaptation. On partnering with higher education institutions, the horticulture, milling, grain, and meat industries have identified climate change as a key skill driver within their sectors. To this end, in responding to the emerging skills challenges, the AgriSETA, in collaboration with higher education institutions, is prioritizing the training of environmental research scientists, conservation officers, environmental officers, research and agricultural scientists. These programs that we're talking about will be predominantly driven through the allocation of bursaries and graduate placement programs. The other participating institutions include the Agricultural Research Council, the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, the Water Research Commission, the University of Wits, University of Cape Town, University of Stellenbosch, Rhodes University, and the Free State University. Furthermore, the National School of Government has included mainstream climate change module in their compulsory induction program, which will benefit government officials at selected levels. In this regard, we call upon government, business, and civil society to collectively participate in tackling challenges that are posed by climate change. As a signatory to the Paris Agreement on Climate Change, South Africa is committed to reduce carbon emissions from the energy sector in particular, in line with our 2016 intended national determined contribution. Thank you very much.
Honorable Mohai.
Chairperson, thank you, Comrade Deputy President, for shedding light on this important matter and giving clarity in terms of government approach towards this complex phenomenon of climate change. And Deputy President, we particularly encouraged by undivided attention given to protect agricultural production, as agriculture remains key focus area, and also encouraged by the National Adaptation Strategy that is underway. Emphasis on education for vulnerable communities is most welcome and needs to be intensified. Even ourselves as members of parliament need to play a critical role as we empowered by government information that is shared in parliament. Are there any structured, you have said, Deputy President, a call on private sector to participate meaningfully in the climate risk and mitigation management. And lastly, Deputy President, you correctly point out that the vulnerability assessment in all provinces is concluded. Is the issue of building resilient infrastructure to respond adequately to climate change also considered? I thank you.
Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Climate change is a real risk, and it impacts negatively on food security. It will impact very negatively on water scarcity, air quality. It will further deepen poverty and push those who are disadvantaged further to extreme positions. Therefore, it is important for all of us to stand up and work towards mitigating all the effects of climate change. And the only way to do this is to try and conserve our environment. Conservation is very important. Pollution of air, pollution of water, very important. So as a society, as a nation, we must take care of our actions that seeks to disrupt the balance of nature. By polluting air, we are disrupting the balance. By polluting water, we are disrupting the balance. There's life in water. We're all breathing this air. So our actions, everyday actions, must be in such a way that we are consciously aware that if we do this, we're acting negatively, and if we do this, we're acting positively. We are grateful that the Department of Environment is reaching out to a number of research institutions. It's reaching out to a number of universities so that all of us can spread this message, can make people aware of their actions. If their actions are detrimental to the environment, people must be made aware. Our actions must be supportive to the environment so that we reduce the risk of climate change. The biggest challenge that we're facing as a country is the carbon emission, mainly driven out of our power stations, and it's about time that we take the necessary steps to reduce the emission. There are technologies that we can use that can help us reduce the emission in our power stations. So that is one step that we must take so that we steam ahead with our efforts to reduce the emissions and ensure that we impact climate change in a positive way rather than in a negative way. So yes, we are doing everything in our power to ensure that we mitigate circumstances that can worsen our climate change. Now, the CSIR has made an announcement on the 1st of November about certain things that we must look at. The first announcement was about this September. September has been dubbed as the warmest month on record. It will be warm, exceedingly warm. 2019 has been among the 5 warmest years on Earth in our recorded history. This has been just announced recently. If we take a look at what the sum total of the climate change of the year, 2019 has been the warmest year. The 6th warmest years on record globally since 1880 will be the last 6 years, which is 2014 through to 2019, with the peak occurring during the strong El Nino years of 2016. 2016 has been the peak. Now, climate change is influenced by our actions, the way we behave, the way we interact with nature. So it's important that we must be schooled, we must be aware how best we should interact with nature. But the best way is not to disrupt nature in a negative way. If you chop trees, you must know that you are disrupting nature. If you pollute water, you must know you're disrupting nature. If you pollute the atmosphere, you must know you're disrupting nature. And the consequences can be dire. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. Honorable Lutuli.
Ngibonge Hlalo. Sekela Mongameli, akusiyona imfihlo ukuthi abantu abaningi abagenayo yilabantu be-agriculture, especially ama-farmers amakhulu. Iningi labantu abakwazi ngisho ukutshala ukuze bakwazi ukubeka ibhodo eziko baze bayitolo bayothenga. Singabaxwayisa abantu about these climate changes kuze kubuye inkosi, kodwa izokwenza futhi akukho esingakwenza ngalokho. Umbuzo wami ke Sekela Mongameli ukuze ukwazi ukuthi ungiphendule kahle ukuthi uzokusheshisa nini ukuthi ubuyise umhlaba kubantu, ngoba abantu bethu abakwazi ngisho ukutshala ngenxa ukuthi umhlaba abanawo, nanokuthi these technologies ezisetshenziswa amanye amazwe ukuthi bakwazi ukutshala ngisho noma kuthiwa khona izomiso la eSouth Africa sizokwazi nini ukuthi sibanikeze abantu le technology ukuthi bakwazi ukutshala ukuze bakwazi ukondla bona nemindeni yabo. Ngiyabonga.
Deputy President.
Siyabonga. Cha, kubalekile ukuthi nanoma ke sibheka ukuthi umhlaba kufuna ubuyele ebantwini. Kufuna futhi sibheke ukuthi uma sesiwulethile umhlaba lo ebantwini bayakwazi ukusebenzisa ngendlela efanele. Bayakwazi futhi ukuthi bawugcine umhlaba lo usesimeni esikulungele ukuthi ungakhiciza ukudla. Ngoba ke uma sikhuluma ngale climate change, sikhuluma ngeinguquko eziba khona ngenxa yezenzo zethu. Namuhla ke siwuphendula umhlaba lo sawenza ama dumping ground. Khona izinto eziningi esizifaka la emhlabathini bese ziyawubulala lo mhlaba ukuthi ungabi productive. So singamane sijahe nje ukuthi silethe umhlaba, kufuna sifundise abantu ukuthi uma wenza lokhu uyawulimaza umhlaba lo, ngeke ukwazi futhi ukuthi uphinde uthole ukudla kulomhlaba. So ibalulekile indaba esixoxa ngayo i-climate change eza nezenzo zethu. Izinto esizenzayo ekuphileni kwethu, i-behavior yethu iyayilimaza imvelo. Bese kwenzeka izinto ebesingazazi ukuthi awu phela la kulomhlaba sasithi uma sifaka imbewu bese kuba khona okumilayo. Kodwa manje akusamili ngoba kunezinto esizenzile kulomhlaba sawubulala. Kubalulekile ke ukuthi sisukume sonke sibafundise abalimi, especially laba abalimayo ukuthi uma bafuna bawugcine umhlaba wabo bawugcine ukhiciza, kufuna bangakwenzi lokhu, benze lokhu, benze lokhu, benze lokhu. Ngiyabonga.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. Bibi.
Ngiyabonga sihlalo. Sengela mongameli. Ngithanda nje ukuthi ngifakazise ingakumbi eKwaZulu Natal ukuthi cha igceme zonke zinazo izikhungo zenhlekelele. Zinazo nje okumnandi ukuthi sinaye ukhokta ohola umfana omncane ohlomuka ogijima zabhasha bemfishane aqikelelele ukuthi kuyo wonke amakhaya bayakwazi ukuthi inhlelo zokuqwashisa umphakathi ngesimo sezulu kubanjani. Siphinde sibe no DSD uma Mkhoza nangila emva kwami ugijima zabemfishane kulezi ikhungo ukuze aqikelele ukuthi uma sekuqala lesi simo zonke izimo ngokuhla. Ebese kuba hayibo ngiyadlalela ezolimo la emva kwami umhlonisho umloyisithole ogijima naze bemfishane ngezolimo ezoqwashise kwabo omama basemakhaya isikakhulu ukuthi uma ngaba inhlekelele ifike kubanjani. Bese kuba ku public works ola emva kwami uFraser ngiyeza ngawo okuyena obonelela ukuthi izakhiwo ezikhona thina ke KZN kwazi ukuthi abantu uma ngabe inhlekelele ikhona la abantu bayangena la ukuthi abantu babe safe babe right. Sekela mongameli bese ke ngiyabuza ke la yiphi inqubekela phambili uhulumeni esenzile ekwakheni izinqala zezinto zezakhiwo ezibhekene nesimo sezulu na nokuthi likhona yini iqhinga lokuqinisekisa ukuthi izwe lethu selisesimeni sokuqondana nesimo ezimbi kakhulu kulezi inhlekelelo zemvelo. Ngiyabonga sekela mongameli.
Cha ngiyabonga. Ngiyabonga. Izimo lezi ziyahlukana. Futhi nje angeke ngithi ikhona izwe elithi lona likulungele ukubhekana noma ngabe isiphi isimo. Izimo lezi ziyahlukana. Kodwa kunezinto okufanele ukuthi siziqaphele, sizilungise kodwa kuba khona ukuba ngaphezulu kwamandla ethu. Kodwa into uqala ukuthi kufanele ukuthi yonke into ezosivelela ezosihlela sikwazi ukuyibona iseza ukuze sizilungiselele kufanele kube nalento esithi i-early warning system. Sikhona ukubona ukuthi kune cyclone ezayo izowenza lokhu bese abantu sibathuthe endaweni ethile sibabeke kwendaweni ethile. Ziyenzeka lezi zinto lezi umhlaba wonke kodwa abayisibona inhlekelele iseza bese siyalungiselela bese impilo abantu bayathuthwa bayobekwa endaweni ephephile idlule leyo nhlekelele ngoba inhlekelele le isuke idalwa isimo sezulu. Esinye isimo lesi singaphezulu kwamandla ethu thina abantu esiphila emhlabeni. Noma ngishilo ukuthi yebo kufanele sikubone kuseza early warning system kube khona futhi lokho esikupreparayo ukuthi uma ngabe kuba khona isimo somlilo sikwazi ukucisha umlilo. Uma kuba khona isimo se-flooding imvula ibisiba iningi ngokwedlulele kube khona esingakwenza sibe namandla athile ukuthi sibhekane naleso simo. Kodwa ekugcineni kwako konke singaba nawo amandla okubhekana nesimo sikwazi futhi ukubona ngaphambili ukuthi kuzawenzeka lokhu nalokhu. Kodwa into okufanele siyiqikelele siyicaphele izenzo zethu. The way we behave on a daily basis as we interact with nature, we must be careful that our interaction with nature affects nature. It affects nature in a very negative way. In fact, it deteriorates nature. Manje ke uma umhlaba wethu ulahlekelwe ukuba umhlaba onothile, uma umoya wethu ulahlekelwe ukuba umoya esingawuphefemula, uma amanzi wethu alahlekelwe ukuhlanzeka kwawo, bese kulimaza impilo. Sekulimaza umuntu ophuza lawo manzi, umuntu ohogela lo moya, njengoba sikhuluma lapha yaneNdiya basenkingeni enkulu ngoba abasakwazi ukuphefemula umoya sungcole kakhulu. Abasazi nabo ukuthi bayophuma kanjani, kodwa izinto ababezenza on a daily basis bezisebenza against ukuhlanzeka komoya. Njalo nje izinto abazenzayo on a daily basis zingcolisa umoya. Bathi bayavuka ngelinye ilanga, hayi umoya songcole kakhulu. Okwamanje ke sokufanele baspend imali eningi ukuthi bazame ukuthi umoya lo uhlanzeke. Ngoba abantu sebayalimala, sebayagula. Abantwana awubaluze amalanga athile ukuya esikoleni. Kuphele almost 2 weeks, 10 days abantwana baya esikoleni. Futhi ukungayi kwabo esikoleni hayi ukuthi kuzositshintsha lesimo. Sebakusimo esibi vele abantwana laba bazogula. This generation izoba affected ngalezenzo ebezenzeka isikhathi eside sokungcolisa umoya. Manje ke kubalekile ukuthi thina sonke kufuna sisukume sikhuze. Uma sibona umuntu epollute umfula, sisukume sikhuze lokho. Uma sibona umuntu epollute umoya, sisukume sikhuze lokho. Uma sibona umuntu abulala umuthi lapha yana, umuthi lo isihlahla lesi siyibalance kule nature. Uma sibulawa lesihlahla kufanele sikhuze lokho. Kuningi ke singakwenza. Singayekeleli kuphela ku Department of Environment, Forestry and Fisheries. Sonke if we can act together. But in the main, the biggest polluter in the world currently is government. Government opollutayo, nathi thina abantu siyapollute njengoba sasikhuluma ngeVaal River, njengoba sasikhuluma ngoEscom. Yizenzo zethu. Manje ke ama effects walokho, they are very disastrous. They are very dangerous to the life of the ordinary people, dangerous to the life of the nation. Thank you very much.
Now we move to the last supplementary question from Honorable Labuskaghni. Labuskaghni.
Chair, I give my question to Honorable Oukamp.
Thank you, Chair. I was recognized by you initially. You nodded your head, but thank you very much, Honorable Labuskaghni.
No, I didn't.
That doesn't matter now. I am on the podium to speak. Mr. Vice President, Mr. Deputy President, thank you very much. It is commendable that you are giving attention to climate change. However, whatever state-of-the-art early warning systems you are engaging with universities, that's also commended. But that is not nearly as accurate as the current situation that we are finding ourselves in. The Northern Cape and various other areas of South Africa, have experienced a drought now for more than 5 years. We don't need early warning systems anymore. That is the reality now for 4 or 5 years already. So whilst we are commending you for taking this serious, we also got to ask, if all the early warning systems in the world is there, but you are not looking reality in the face, what do they help? All those early warning systems is useless if you don't implement the measures to counter them. You went to the Northern Cape and you said that the Northern Cape can get 30 million out of 640 million that was required. So thank you again for that as well. The point is just, what will this government do to, at long last, implement all the requirements to mitigate this drought? To not only do lip service, but to really look at the plight of the farmers and of all the people suffering from this current drought that is devastating, and implement sufficient measures to counter this. Thank you, Mr. Deputy President.
Well, thank you very much. The Northern Cape has been a very painful situation. Yeah, where a farmer decided to die. He could not really take it to see his animals dying, and finally decided to commit suicide. Well, it's a painful experience, but one thing, early warning system, yes, but an early warning system that must communicate to people. People must change their actions, the way they do things. For instance, here in the Western Cape, we went down to day 0. And every day you were given information, the dam levels are here, we must not do this, we must use water this, we must use... People continued as if nothing has changed until the last day when they said, there's no water now. Human behavior is very important. We can blame whoever, but if they tell you to say, no, watch, you are going to have drought, you are not going to have rain, use water sparingly, do so. Do so. But we've come to a point where, as South Africans, we ignore these early warning systems. We ignore this early warning system. Well, in the Northern Cape, it's a different situation. When I was there, the farmers told me we're in this situation for 7, 8 years. Consistent drought. But I'm saying they, as government, we could have done better. Because there are areas along the Orange River where we can plant a lot of fodder and try and supply farmers. Which currently, that's what we did, to say this land belongs to government, that land belongs to government. We gave that land to the province to plant fodder so that they can support these animals. I mean, we could have reacted better at that time. Now, well, our intervention, it was not really up to scratch. I'm hoping to still work with the Department of Agriculture, with the province, to find a way of relocating some of the farmers, because there's absolutely nothing that they can do with their land. It's just dry. Probably offer them alternative land where they can relocate their animals. I mean, we need to do some plans to make the farmers there survive so that there could be food there. But the bottom line is that people must take care, take early warning systems very important. We are being told now that This warm climate is going to have devastating effect on our agriculture, on our animals and everything. We must take care, we must use water sparingly. This is the message now. We must not wait until we're in a problem. South Africans must learn to take early warning systems serious and prepare themselves. I'm happy that certain governments in KZN, the province has prepared itself, but they can only do so much. They can only have so many tents and so many beds that they can help people. They can't help the entire province. People must be able to take early warning messages serious. As government, we're going to confront the drought, but we can only do so working with our people. We're going to use underground water, we're going to use it sparingly. Let us look after our dams, let us look at our resources very carefully. We abuse them, we will suffer. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. As the Deputy President takes his seat, please allow me to say two things. The first is that we should thank the NCOP, the Deputy President, for making himself available to answer the questions. Secondly, to indicate that the Deputy President is free to now leave us in this venue.
Thank you very much.
As our business continues. Lastly, we will now suspend the deliberations of the House for 2 minutes to allow space so that after these 2 minutes, we then convene and begin to have debates and deliberations on the Springbok question as indicated earlier on. Thank you very much. 2 minutes.
Thank you. 2 minutes have passed. Honorable members, can you take your seats? 2 minutes passed. We are continuing. Who's keeping? We are just giving the members 1 more minute to be back.
The bells are ringing, 2 minutes, it's ringing, it's 2 minutes is gone. You may be seated. Thank you. As the chairperson have already alluded, let me just check. Okay, now it's fine. I'm having it here. I do have one. Thank you. I do have one. We are now going to call on the parties to congratulate the national rugby team. The speakers list is follows. The first speaker, the Honorable F. de Tooy, Freedom Front Plus. From the podium. From the podium. That's right.
Dankie, agbare adjunkvoorsitter. Paul Roos was die kaptein wat die eerste Suid-Afrikaanse rugbyspan geklee in groen en goud op 'n toer in 1906 en 1907 na die Britse eilande in Frankryk onderneem het. Dit was gedurende hierdie toer dat die Springbokke die bynaam die Springbokke gekry het. Dit is deur die pers aan hulle gegee. Die Springbok word soos ons nasie soms deur baie onderskat. Rassie en sy span wat deur Sia Kolisi gelei is, het weer eens bevestig dat ons as Suid-Afrikaners met die Springbok kan vereenselwig. Ons is aanpasbaar en kan in enige omstandighede, het sy lowergroen grasvelde of 'n Kalahari woestyn oorleef. Soos die Springbokke in troppe na mekaar omsien, is ons ook in ons onderskeie gemeenskappe interafhanklik van mekaar vir 'n voortbestaan. Ons put ons krag uit die grond onder die ongenaakbare Afrika son en leef letterlik dag vir dag op geloof. Soos die Springbok smag ons na reën en uitkoms wat op die regte tyd kom en ons word nooit deur God se genade teleurgestel nie. Deputy Chair, Andrei Pollard sustained an injury during last Saturday's 32-12 win over England in the Rugby World Cup in Yokohama. He suffered a broken cheekbone. He's a legend that showed us to achieve success, one must give every challenge your all, no matter what life throws your way. It's by taking the blows and facing the challenges head on that we will prevail. Rugby is a team sport, so is politics. You have to abide by the rules that are set out. You have to choose the best player or candidate on the basis of qualification and merit. The game plan needs to be clear. The team needs to be united, respecting their differences and their opinions. There needs to be set goals to work towards. There needs to be cohesion. The Freedom Front Plus hereby congratulates Rassie and his team for their great achievement. According to the SA Rugby Mag, all of New Zealand, I mentioned his name earlier, all of New Zealand, Ireland, England, Wales and Australia were tipped with better odds than the Boks of going all the way. Die Bokke kan nou met trots sprong. Bokke, you made us proud. You proved them wrong, and we salute you. And to God be all the glory. Ek dank u.
The Honorable S.E. Mfayele, Inkatha Freedom Party. Bob.
Honorable Chairperson, allow Inkatha Freedom Party to congratulate the Springbok in their World Cup victory over the weekend in Japan. This victory is not a victory of a singular team, but rather a nation who must take life lesson offered through sport. The victory of Springbok brings my thought to fall upon the famous words of Helen Keller. I quote, "Alone we can do so little. Together we can do so much." Unquote. This is truly inspirational and fitting for the Springbok victory, which shows a team that is steadily transforming yet able to achieve so much because they have a common belief. As I was once a young boxer and a keen soccer player, I learned many life lessons which taught me discipline and teamwork. From this I know sport to the single most important and unifying activity. Madam Chairperson, we wish to thank the entire team, Coach Rassie Erasmus, and our captain, Siya the Great Kolisi. These young men make us proud to bring together a nation. May your victory be fluent and be fulfilling. I thank you.
Siyabonga baba. The Honorable Makause.
This is my maiden speech.
Honorable members, although this person has been speaking so much in this house, take note that it is a maiden speech in a debate in this house.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson. Even though rugby was brought to this country by murderous British colonialism, it took on development on its own and became deeply embedded in the culture and imagination of our people, particularly those who were amongst the first to come into contact with colonialism. Over the past 200 years, the culture has become so strong that despite many years of subjugation and marginalization of black talent, and deliberate attempts by the Afrikaners to claim rugby as their own sport, our people have persisted and against all odds made it to this team. These talented players have been deliberately shut out of the system, while a small Dutch minority origin have sought to monopolize the sport. It is against this backdrop that we salute the black brave efforts of this new generation of black rugby players who have broken all systems barriers against their progress. We salute Sia, we salute Chelsea, we salute Makazole, we salute Lokunyo, Mbongeni Mbombani, Elton Junkies, Tendai. We also salute Apiwe, who we believe was strategically excluded from the game. They played valiantly in a team that had a racist Eben Esben, who stand accused of having assaulted black people merely because they are black. It is because of these circumstances that the achievement of these black players stand monumental. They achieved this with known racists amongst them as their counter players. May they live long to see rugby fully transformed in this country and bring many more other trophies to this country. I thank you.
Honorable members, Honorable Rider, Bayet Nkosi. It's just a pity that you are having also the English rose.
No, that's not a rose, Deputy Chair. Can we zero the time if you don't mind? Or start fresh, good. Madam Deputy Chair, thank you very much. On Tuesday of this week, I rose on a point of order to ask for this opportunity, and so to the Chairperson, the Chief Whip, and the programming team, and I'm sure Honourable Nyambi as well, I say thank you very much for acceding to the request. Madam Deputy Chair, the South African rugby team, the Springboks, went to Japan with the country's hopes on their substantial shoulders. Led by a giant in physical, mental, and charismatic stature, our captain, Siya Kolisi, they played consistently well, timing their peak for the final. The sportsmanship and the character showed by the team as a group was remarkable. Madam Deputy Chair, the team included a diverse group of South Africans, and we were well represented. The result has been that South Africans from all walks of life came together and celebrated. People who maybe are seldom seen together were seen hugging, dancing, and celebrating in taverns, bars, homes, public viewing sites, and streets around the country together. The social cohesion and nation-building project has been driven forward, very much like the creative midfield maul in the second half of the overwhelming 32-12 win in the final against England. The importance of a win such as this cannot be overstated. The images of South African sports heroes leading us to a victory on the world stage is something that should not be belittled. South Africa is a marginalized country on the southern tip of the continent of Africa. Our continent is often underestimated in terms of its potential, and when excellence is demonstrated and recognized, that should be cherished. A win of this magnitude by a team of diverse but united players, acting in unison with a common goal in mind, gives us hope in so many ways. On the sports field, at school, in life, as a community and as a country, we are all inspired. We are living in difficult times in South Africa. Our economy is under pressure, and our Rainbow Nation project has suffered as times have become harder and as divisive projects have been initiated by groups in pursuit of narrow self-interest. The damage caused by Bell Pottinger was substantial. The polarizing rhetoric of political parties that are focused on race and division has pushed this project backwards and pushed us backwards as a nation. The box went forward as our standard bearers, and it is now up to us as South Africans to heed their rallying call, to bind behind them and drive ourselves toward the goal line of a united country. This may not yet be the united country that we dream of, but this reassertion has placed us back on the trajectory to unity. I think it's important also to pay tribute to the beast. Tendai Mtararira has hung up his international boots after 117 test matches. Your role is greatly acknowledged, and we salute you and wish you well in your retirement. Maar elke enkele lid van die groep het bygedra en Suid-Afrika is dankbaar aan hulle almal. Ek wil ook vir Andrei Pollard, wat vandag in die hospitaal lê, alles van die beste wens vir 'n volle en vinnige herstel van sy beserings. Madam Deputy Chair, there will always be haters and spoilers. To the few small-minded deriders, in true South African fashion, I merely shake my head and click my tongue. Ach, shame. Deputy Chair, we congratulate the team, Rassie Erasmus and the coaches and the support group that brought back the trophy to South Africa and placed South Africa in our rightful place as world champions at a time when we really needed it. We thank the families that stood behind them and supported them along the way. Thank you, Boka, for inspiring us. We are better together. We are better following your victory. Ritswilopele, Kaufela. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Nyambi. Honorable Nyambi.
Deputy Chairperson, honorable members, fellow South Africans. Starting from my right, drafters of the Constitution decided to have the National Council of Provinces. So I would like to register that as this House, when we congratulate the good work done by the Springbok Chairperson, we write a formal letter to SARU to request SARU that the celebration must not be only in Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal, Western Cape, and Eastern Cape. It must go to Northwest, Free State, Mpumalanga, Northern Cape, and Limpopo. So they are truly South Africans. Last Saturday, in a small village in Mpumalanga, Block C, in Nkomazi Municipality, I went to bed in a place that I could proudly call my beloved country, South Africa. I was reminded of the endless possibilities that South Africa represents when our rugby team, the Springboks, defied the odds to emerge victorious in this year's edition of Rugby World Cup in Japan. Sibashaye, sababeka lutsi, enhloko. Having triumphed over New Zealand in the semi-final match, England were the bookmakers' choice to sweep South Africa aside. But our sporting heroes had other ideas. Not only did they win, they did so comprehensively. We salute Siako Lisi-led battalion, which reminds us that we can play and win together as a country. Sitaungoba simunye. Their heroic should be a lesson that we can achieve more if we work as a team. Our former president, Tata Madiba, once said, open quote, "It seems impossible until it's done," close quote. Indeed, ours seemed like an impossible Japanese task until Springbok hoisted aloft the Webb Ellis Cup at the end of the 80-minute encounter. I join all our citizens in wishing the coach, Rassie Erasmus, and the entire technical team, the captain, and all the players, well, and thank you for their ambassadorial role. We will draw many lessons from their unity as a team and their cohesiveness as a true South African brand. I think I could now confer on President Ramaphosa the title of prophet, as he predicted the outcome long before the first ball of the day was kicked. Open quote, I will come and join you in lifting the trophy, close quote. The president said to Siya Kolisi amid doubts that South Africa was up for the challenge. These doubts were fueled by the fact that we had lost to New Zealand in the group stages. This indeed were the only team to have suffered a defeat in the group stages, which then proceeded to be champion in history of the Rugby World Cup. We are the only country that has won the Rugby World Cup in 3 different continents: in Africa, in Europe, and in Asia. Yes, we are a country of first, and we continue to do so under the stewardship of President Ramaphosa. Sikhokhele Mongameli. Let me also congratulate Tendai the Beast Mtawarira on his retirement for international test matches, as it has been alluded by my colleague. I have the following words to the Beast Mtawarira, open quote, a good dancer knows when to leave the stage, close quote. As the National Council of Provinces, as Parliament, we are proud for what they have done. They have done a true social cohesion foundation that can use to unite the country. I thank you.
Order, honorable members. Let me just conclude by saying to you, South Africans, for the next 4 years, you will be world champions. Don't forget that. You are the champions of the world. With all of that said and done, I just want to inform the honorable members that Parliament also hosted today the stakeholders in the men's sector, addressing the very important issue that we have been championing so far, the issue of gender-based violence, and also making sure that we are in preparation for next year for the men's parliament, becoming part and parcel of the process where the men's sector will become involved in coaching our boys so that in 2030, the investment that we are putting into our boys will breed better men that will be able to protect our women, our children, our elderly, and our people living with disabilities. With all that said and done, it concludes the business of the day. The House stands adjourned. Thank you very much to everyone.